Each organ group is connected in this medicine to one of the five elements, which is unlike traditional Native American cultures that have four. Chinese medicine has five, which are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And they have their own unique ways of responding to stress. So, by understanding symptoms that are associated with each of the organ systems, now we can start figuring patterns and deciphering clues that our body really gives us when we are out of balance.
How is everybody in the listening audience? If you're in good spirits, put a one in the chat. Good spirits, good spirits. If you've allowed someone to wound your spirit today, oh, put a zero, and we'll focus. We'll get you from zero to one at least. Okay. Because you will always sometimes find, a person who may interfere with your day, where you need to seek refuge and lift your spirit and be amongst somebody who will lift you up and put you where you need to go. I'm looking forward to hearing about some Chinese alternative medicine today from Dr. Joy. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So without furthering, please, spiritual injection, those of you in the Zoom room exclusively, take your devices off of mute and welcome our special guest, Dr. Joy. Let's receive her with love and thanks and appreciation. Hey, Sister Joy. Walaikum salam. How are you this fine Thursday evening here in the
grace. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Well, warm welcome to the show. Thank you for agreeing to come and share some of that wonderful wisdom that you have been blessed to receive on your journey. So I'm going to hand over to you, and please take us deep as you possibly can into this field that you have been so blessed to delve in and extract so much out of.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you all. And in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is his living and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Jesus Messiah in our midst. And it is with that a humble honor and a pleasure that I greet you in the Arabic language of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Hey, walaikum salam. Now you got a lot to prove after saying all that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, Allah has blessed me and my life, just the way that it has unfolded back into Islam, back into my true nature. And by being able to study my true nature, it took me through a route of Chinese medicine to literally learn about the elements, about what actually physiologically and spiritually makes me up. And now with the teachings, it has just further emboldened, what even the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the final call, the May 19 issue, he wrote a lecture, releasing the power of God within mind, body, and soul. So this is in tandem with the God. He has allowed me to recognize that in some capacities, when I am needed, that he's allowed me to be a vessel or a channel in and of itself. So I'm really grateful to share some of the knowledge that I've been shared and has been passed on to me about Chinese medicine, about women's health, about stress, and just to begin a discussion of treatment of mental and emotional problems. The title of this is Silent Killer, Subtle Cure. So, right away, stress. we need to begin there. And so to begin the discussion of the treatment of mental and emotional problems. And let's talk about how stress through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine actually affects each organ system. So in Chinese medicine, stress is really understood as a very powerful force that can disrupt this delicate balance of the body's natural organ system, natural flow. Each organ group is connected in this medicine to one of the five elements, which is unlike traditional Native American cultures that have four. Chinese medicine has five, which are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And they have their own unique ways of responding to stress. So, by understanding symptoms that are associated with each of the organ systems, now we can start figuring patterns and deciphering clues that our body really gives us when we are out of balance. So, we'll start with the wood element that is pertaining to the liver and the gallbladder organ and channels. Uh, the emotions associated are anger, frustration, irritability. And so, common symptoms of imbalance would look like tension and tightness in the muscles and shoulders, the neck, headaches, migraines. You might feel a little bit wound up or irritable, and your stress response might be the need for more of a physical release, maybe running or a spinning class, or even standing out in the yard and screaming. That might be helpful to alleviate the liver qi stagnation. So, in traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is really responsible for that smooth flow of qi. And we'll get further into that as we discuss that in the context of women's health and Chinese medicine and how that plays a really large part. So, when the liver is under stress, qi becomes stagnant. So when qi is stagnant, it kind of buckles and builds, leading to that kind of tension and irritability. And the gallbladder is the yang pair to the liver, to its yin pair, the liver. And that also plays a role. Really, the gallbladder is all about decision making, courage. So when this system is out of balance, you may feel even very indecisive or very stuck. Some people really literally have come into the office and said, I just don't have a direction in life, or I have so many options and I can't decide, or, oh gosh, if I decide, I might choose the wrong one. There's a lot of fret. So now we're moving on to the fire element, and that pertains to the heart and the small intestine. The emotions that are associated with that often are joy, overexcitement, or panic. And common symptoms of imbalance would be palpitations or tightness in the chest, sleep disturbances like insomnia, or even sometimes vivid dreaming. Uh, the emotional overwhelm or erratic thoughts or a tendency to feel almost emotionally unstable or panicky is a result of that sort of stress response with those overwhelmed feelings leading to those kinds of emotional outbursts. So the thinking may be unclear, or someone might struggle to process their emotions. That is all pertaining to the heart and the small intestine. The heart is yin, the small intestine is yang in the fire element pairing. So the heart in traditional Chinese medicine, that's the ruler of the mind and the spirit. And we'll get further into breaking down those terms in just a bit. But the mind and the spirit are also known as Shen in Chinese. And when the heart is out of balance, the Shen then becomes unsettled. It leads to that emotional anxiety, insomnia, instability. And when that happens, oftentimes the small intestine gets involved in sorting what we call the pure from the impure. So, both physically and mentally, when we're stressed, individuals could perhaps practice the calming of the mind with meditation and breath work, exercises, or even acupuncture to help refocus and recenter the mind. And the next element would be the earth element. You have the spleen and the stomach. The spleen is the yin, and the stomach is the yang pair. They are both associated with worry and overthinking and rumination. I am so guilty of this. um, Common symptoms of imbalance would be even digestive issues, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion. The excessive worry or overthinking, or even a difficulty in focusing, it may be present. And the earth element, we typically tend to ruminate when we're stressed. So there might be what we would call liver overacting on spleen, or wood element overacting on earth element if you're a five element practitioner. So that often you see the focus on certain problems or almost to the point of obsession, like pathological obsession. This can manifest really in also digestive disturbances. You often find people with spleen and stomach disorders having high amounts of stress. So we might look to the liver in order to help rebalance and correct that. And those earth type people may find relief through grounding activities, again, mindful eating, eating slowly, chewing your food thoroughly. As the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, eat simple foods, right? Walking in nature, walking is the best medicine, or even practicing what we call yin yoga, something that's a little bit slower paced. None of this, what do they call it? Sweating, hot yoga. That's it. None of that. That's more yang than yin. So the spleen actually is the center of digestion, which is also akin in Western physiology, and it's responsible for transforming food into energy. So we can all agree and understand that. But when it's under stress, that spleen's function ends up becoming impaired, leading to those digestive issues. So the stomach then is responsible for breaking down um, or receiving the breakdown of that food. And that can also become affected, leading to that indigestion, bloating. So you want to support the digestion also through diet and mindfulness. The next element then is the metal element. The lung is the yin, and the large intestine is the yang to the metal element pairing. These elements, or these organs and channels, they're associated with grief, sadness, and detachment. So someone may come into the office and say, I'm having a lot of trouble breathing. They may or may not have had childhood asthma. They may or may not, even be on perhaps a CPAP machine. And doing a little bit of digging with the diagnostic tools, we may find out that, oh, there's bereavement. Their mother just passed away, 6 months ago, a year ago. And so the body physically and emotionally is having that stress response of working that out. So physically, the respiratory issues like asthma, again, sinus problems or frequent colds can show up in these channels. Also, if someone's even relatively like phlegmy or full of phlegm or has a tough time, coughing, or there's a productive cough, I may also ask about bowel movement because those things are interrelated within this medicine. So I may also help your cough, but also alleviate either diarrhea or constipation at the same time. And that is also very relatable to the emotional aspect of this, where feelings of sadness, grief, detachment, or this difficulty of letting go. The lungs, we talk about breath of life or prana or chi, and that's all about taking in, right? Ingesting. And then the large intestine, in a sense, is letting go. We like to say in these certain terms of letting go of what no longer serves you. So there is some truth to that. Stress response when these metal types, they can often experience these respiratory issues and feel a little bit more maybe detached or saddened. Their immune system also is usually quite compromised. The lungs also govern the skin, and the skin is our largest immune organ. And so we're also looking at skin issues and skin conditions when there's someone who has had frequent illness of lung or large intestine. And they benefit from really, again, breathing exercises outdoors as long as we can. We need to be outside and enjoying these elements. And the practices and the encouragement of letting go of emotions. We can understand and feel our emotions, but we're not meant to sit there. Emotion for me is energy in motion. So you're allowed to feel, just don't hold, that is for too long. In TCM, the lungs are really, again, responsible for taking in chi from the environment and closely linked to, again, the emotion of grief. So when they're out of balance, the person may struggle with that. And the large intestine also is responsible, again, for elimination. So we might even see someone being, fairly sluggish or, have no real motivation in a particular way. And so we may ask about bowel movement and they may be constipated actually. So again, really trying to restore that balance within the metal element. May also be addressing emotional health as well. The water element pertain to the kidneys and the bladder, both physiologically and emotionally. The emotions associated are actually fear and insecurity. So the most common symptoms of imbalance with these two are lower back pain, knee pain, and any kind of issue with urination. The emotional aspect, you may see someone come in with an increased like fear or anxiety or a feeling of insecurity or overwhelm. There could be some trauma, whether it's long withstanding or something that has happened that's acute, immediate, and abrupt. um, the stress response, then the water element types, they become very fearful or anxious under stress. They experience a lot of physical symptoms again, like lower dantian, that's what we would say, is lower back, knees, and they may benefit actually more from a type of gentle movement exercise like qigong or tai chi. Again, acupuncture to support the kidneys' vital energy and really to help alleviate the fear. So the kidneys, in a TCM perspective, are the root of life force and are associated again with the emotion of fear. So when the kidneys are stressed, that energy becomes very depleting, right? And leading to those surges of feeling fear and anxiety. And the bladder then is responsible for storing those excreting fluids. So that actually can also become affected. You might see someone who may have uh, seen something quite shocking. And now all of a sudden they're incontinent, In a Western medical sense, that might be an anomaly. In Chinese medicine, there's a strategic pinpoint of, oh, this is why. And this is how we can strengthen the kidneys through, restoration, boosting yang, and helping to balance that water element. And so, understanding the TCM perspective on stress and its effects on the body's organ systems can really help you. And this is what the medicine is really about, to empower you to take control of your health. So, those are just a little bit to start about understanding and addressing how this holistic approach addresses the body, the mind, and the soul, spirit, or Shen.
Fantastic. So when somebody comes to see you, and thank you for that, Dr. Joy. So when somebody
Yes.
comes to see you, what is the first thing you ask them for? Is it do you conduct a questionnaire, some form of survey? What's the first step if I want to come and see you and I'm full of issues? What,
Yes,
how
sir.
do we how do we start the appointment?
Yes, sir. Well, first, you'd come in. There is a questionnaire that actually we go through together. I start out by saying, what is bringing you in today, and so we start from there. You could have a wide array of issues. They all may or may not be addressed within the first treatment. But in general, because it's a holistic overview of the systems of the body, not only Western medical symptoms or systems. Are you on any medications currently? Have you had any Western diagnostics? And also, I will note that traditional Chinese medicine has been a standalone medicine for over 4,000 years. That's just written empirical text and knowledge. So it does not necessarily lean on or need to lean on Western medicine for any kind of efficacy. But the West is really trying to catch up actually with figuring out how does this work and why does this work. So we go through systems of mind, body, spirit. We go through, if you're a woman, all your women's health from menarche or the start of your first menstruation up to perimenopause and menopause. But whatever you're really coming in for at the beginning, let's say you had low back pain, brother, and okay, this is a physical thing, but now we've gone through this personal intake. And so now all the other things that you've been wanting to work on, or, when I did hurt my back, I was going through this. Okay. well, that might be another point prescription that I might add to your treatment.
Right. So living where we live, it's two questions I want to ask you. For one is on environment, and another one really is on, say, the relationship we have as Black people with Chinese people and the Chinese community. Do you think that that has been the reason why we don't appreciate something like Chinese medicine? It's because
Mhm.
we don't have a good relationship with Chinese people. And if we developed a better relationship, like, if we was to take a quick survey and ask everybody online, how many of you have a Chinese friend, not acquaintance, friend, and you actually know how to pronounce their name? Can you put a one, put a one, put a one in the chat if you have a Chinese friend and you know how to pronounce their name, and better still, you've been to their home or their place of abode? Just put a one in the chat. It should be good fun. so, so Dr. Joy, do you believe that dynamic, that lack of friendship, that lack of relatability, if you will, from a personal perspective with Chinese people, puts most Black people off even trying to consider Chinese medicine as a remedy for their ills?
That's a good question. I'll go back to the first instance of your question, which was about environment. So we're taught in the nation, who the original man is, and the original man is the Asiatic Black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. So when I think about the relationship between Black and Chinese, this is originally just regionality. We, as Black people, as original people, have been in said China for generations, for years, for eons. And so this medicine and the concepts of the concepts of traditional Chinese medicine, they may have been more formulated within that region, but that doesn't mean that we were not present within those formulations. And so now that we are seeing more light on traditional Chinese medicine, and they are Asiatic in phenotype and appearance, I think the environment that we live in, the world that has been constructed for or not with us, um, that is where this break off, this differentiation of this isn't for us, when it really is our
Right.
medicine. And so I really hope to impart more of a balance within that understanding of how these large concepts of medical theory within this region were birthed in Africa, in Kemet, and spread throughout. And so then they were just later refined by a specific region in which Black people also originated.
Right. But do you believe, though, our inability to make friends with people from different communities and different nations and nationalities really backfires on us? Because it seems as if our inability to relate to certain ethnicities and certain other nations, it robs us from being able to trade and to share, culture and evolve into being more refined because of this standoff-ish type of nature. So, for instance, at the moment, where you are in the US, you guys seem to be at trade war with China, right? And and how many members of our community are saying, "Yeah, man, the Chinese should pay some more tariffs, man."
Mhm,
Like, who's siding with who? So the point
mhm.
is, if we have aligned ourselves and see the value in Chinese culture and Chinese medicine, then we would really become a force to be reckoned with, wouldn't we? Because
Right.
we seem to be too over dependent on Caucasian people, it would seem, and what they offer as solutions, but we don't seem to have friendship in these
Mhm.
areas. So what you're really doing with what you're offering to us, you're not just offering us an alternative form of ways of treating our ills, but you're also offering us friendship with a people that we must start to look at differently. Would you agree with that?
All praises due to Allah. Yes, actually, I would agree. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did say that our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. So right now is the time to bridge the gaps, not only with who Allah God is and releasing that power of God within ourselves, but also understanding and interconnecting within our own original nation. And that is with different ethnicities. The Cuba educational system there that the nation has been a part of. They actually teach Chinese medicine there. And so a lot of our brothers and sisters, I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Ishan, and she had gone through, and she's also a part of the Ministry of Health team, but she had gone through that program. So not only was she learning integrative medicine and through a Spanish speaking lens, but they were also integrating Chinese medicine as part of their curriculum. So there are multifacets and multi layers to how we can unify our best and brightest minds and concepts of health.
Right. So hence friendship in all walks of life, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me couple that with the first question in regards to the impact of environment.
Yes.
Because for instance, if I come and see you and I explain all of my concerns and you bless me with healing and I am blessed to become, whole. If I go back into the same environment, how much of a disservice am I doing to myself by going back into the environment that made me sick in the first instance?
That is a wonderful question. And that is a difficult one to unpack, especially here in the United States. When we're looking at health and health concerns, health outcomes, we're also looking at comorbidities and the relationship between not only the physical but mental health aspect. When I might be able to give you a sort of five-star treatment, but if you do go back into, say, a stressful environment or any kind of danger or anything like this, then it's not going to necessarily be an invite for that holistic healing, as you'd say. So even if you couldn't change your environmental circumstances, we can help to achieve and maintain balance within our minds. And that is part of empowering the patient to take what you can away from treatment, to maybe have some homework after a treatment. But what you're saying, dear brother, is absolutely true. I mean, especially here in America, when we have poverty, we have lack of resources, we have, or we're going into, shortage of food. So, what can we do in order to help sustain ourselves in a balance of a holistic life? And that is where this medicine ultimately really brought me to Islam, actually. So, this is something that I rely on heavily.
Right. So now I woke up this morning with a desire to leave this country. I just get the hell out of here, right?
Mm.
Now, it felt so natural to say, okay, I've run my course in this part of, my father's planet. Now it's time to go and do something different. Do you think we make ourselves sick by staying in environments and in places for far too long? Just because we may have been born there.
Yes, I think that that can be, but bringing it to scripture, I would say Matthew 6:25, Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life?"
You
So
went there, did you?
yes.
You went to Jesus. Okay. All right. Now, so so because you went to Jesus, I'm going to say this in regards to environment and say we spend in the West generally most of the year under winter conditions, would you say?
Mhm.
So do you think a part of our health plan, according to Chinese tradition and what you have majored in, is a part of that healing process actually being in a tropical environment?
Hmm. Could you maybe reframe the question?
Meaning, do we need a set amount of natural sunshine every year as opposed to taking vitamin D drops or supplements?
Oh, absolutely, especially for melanated people. We definitely, melanin, vitamin D, that's a hormone. And so we really are integrating that into our bodies in a very different way than Caucasians. And so I do definitely believe that having the right amount of sunshine, more like a Caribbean environment almost, is more optimal for us. Mhm.
So what do we do about young people who seem to want to wear Canada Goose coats in the summer and wear hats and cover their bodies, like, and wear coats during the summer period? This is a phenomenon that I've never seen before in my entire life. Like
I have
somebody,
not here.
it doesn't happen there.
I have not seen that here in the summertime. It is, well, I'm in North Carolina, so it is far too
Oh
hot for
wow.
a jacket like that in the summertime. My goodness.
Wow, people wear them here. Like
Wow.
people wear, like, young people, not all of them, but quite a few young people are fully dressed, like
Mm.
in sports clothing and all of this type of um, bad, what do they call it? Fabric. These type
Oh,
of
yeah.
fabrics that really are not good for us.
Hmm.
So by way of these type of choices, eating processed foods, wearing
Hmm.
clothing that have fibers and fabrics that really discombobulate our biological system and throw our biology out. With all of these dynamics, Dr. Joy, how much do you think we are contributing to our own poor health, as opposed to saying there are chemtrails, there are this? How much are we doing percentage wise, do you believe, to our to ill affect our own health?
I think quite a large amount, but again, it's not who we are by nature. It's the conditions that we've been brought up in, and the resources that are there for us currently that are not necessarily for us. Um, you know, I understand that fast fashion is a thing, that there might be cute things that we want to wear and look our best, but they have all kinds of endocrine disruptors within the plastics and the polyester and things like that in the material. But I think that the more and more we are moving into an era of do for self, we really have to figure out how to make those transitional changes. And we might not be aware of what is some alternative to that. Just recently on Instagram, I posted a post in my stories about the frequency of fabrics, and that linen is a very high frequency, something like 500 hertz. And they used to use this in hospitals because it was a better way to control bacteria and contamination and things like that. It had a more healing property for the body in and of itself. We don't use those anymore, even. So it's not
Dr. Joy,
necessarily our fault. Mhm.
how can we use linen and wearing these? Western environments, that is not conducive to our linen. So are you saying we should go back to the Caribbean and to Africa so we can wear more linen?
I think that you can make those switches and changes in things that you eat, wear, and what you consume overall in any place that you are at. The thing about it, though, is the resource that you have
Right.
around you to
Mhm.
obtain something like that, the accessibility. Would be more of the issue. So while I would wish and hope for all of my brothers and sisters to visit Africa, to visit the Caribbean, to have an extended stay currently, if that's not possible, then we have to think about other changes that we can make that are accessible to us.
Right. So I know you're a great advocate of women's health. What
Mhm.
areas are you most concerned about that women might not be very familiar with the erosion that is taking place, that you are desirous of sounding the alarm? What are the alarming areas that you would like to try to educate our women on?
Oh yes. In obstetrics and gynecology in Chinese medicine, women's physiology and gynecological systems, they're really influenced heavily by one organ, one vital substance, and one structure. And those are the kidneys, blood, and the uterus. And so I think moving forward, we're seeing a decline in fertility with Caucasians, but I would like us to definitely focus on the fertility and health and well-being of are women within our nation. And so by saying that, we want to really look at how the kidneys play a huge role in gynecology as they're the origin of menstrual blood, or in this medicine, what we call tiangui, as well as overall health for the ovaries. And so I would definitely hone in on, again, looking at how your fertility health, how your menstrual health, specifically for women, has been over your lifetime. Without this Tiang Wei, there would be no menstrual cycle, there would be no fertility, and the origin, nature, and function of that plays a really large role. Blood also plays a really large role for men, but for women with pregnancy and childbirth, and I'll add even postpartum, that's a really huge thing. So, again, from the beginning of this little mini lecture, we also know that um, we call it postnatal chi. And that means after you have been born, what are you putting into your body that will help to build blood? And so, um, Tiang Gui is not the equivalent to blood. It really means that blood is stored by the liver, and the uterus does play a role then in women's physiology. So for menstrual blood, for postnatal chi and blood, they're produced again by the stomach and the spleen, so that those two are playing a secondary role. And then what we call the lower dantian, right below the belly button, houses the uterus, which is what we call a curious fu organ. It just means it's a container of sorts. And that is what houses the blood. And because of this location of where this is at for women, women are actually much more prone to blood stasis than men are. So women, they more pertain to a yin aspect, but some of our aspects are physiologically yang, as opposed to men who pertain more to yang. But some of your aspects are more physiologically yin. So women's physiology is rooted in blood, where men's is in chi, and men store the essence, and women store the uterus, the blood, and the fetus. So that's all that to say, in our lessons, we were taught that a nation can rise no higher than a woman. And my mind, because of this previous knowledge to coming into the nation, I think about women's health in particular, and the what the uterus what the uterus has capacity for, how in Chinese, it actually has several names. The zibao is actually known as the baby's container. For men, just the word bao um, can be translated either to a room of sperm or essence. And so, just to really hone in on how we as women moving forward are taking care of our first womb, the mental, and how that is translating to the body then in the second womb or the baby's room.
Fantastic. Just before I ask you the next question and bring in my co-host, I want to give a big shout out. I can see you, brother Terrence. Big shout out to brother Terrence Mohammed, who's in the audience. So,
Assalamu alaikum.
walaikum salam. So, with that, Dr. Joy, if I had a daughter, and to the young ladies who are in the audience, there must be many women on the call now who are listening to you and bearing witness to the fact that we need about conservatively another 1,000 Dr. Joys to get started. So
Inshallah.
at least 1,000 just to get started. So if I'm sitting here with my 8-year-old, my 9-year-old, and 10-year-old, and don't want them to waste time through an educational system that's only designed to keep them dull until somebody realizes their gifts and their talents. Is there a process, Dr. Joy, a training program that you are writing or have already developed to train others to duplicate and to learn what you've been blessed to acquire?
All praises due to Allah. Thank you for that question. I am currently still writing it. Um, it takes some time, and also I have noticed that through my 7+ years of schooling, I graduated with my master's in 2019, and then in 2022, my clinical doctorate. After that, I really realized that traditional Chinese medicine schools were being usurped and co-opted in different ways through integrative practices, through Western medical lenses, etc. And it's not the true essence of what this kind of natural medicine can encompass. And so that was really disheartening to me. And I felt very, very blessed by Allah to receive the education that I did, because I feel like that is becoming more and more rare. And so that is why I'm really taking my time. I thought that I would have this course finished before Savior's Day, and that was completely audacious and ambitious of me because I really want to take my time. And also, I really want to make it where it makes sense for beginners as well as believers, which is very, very important to me. This is not something that is outside of understanding, again, what Mr. Farrakhan calls the power of God within. This is something that is unique to us, just like energy medicine, just like other tools for healing, like Reiki, things like this. These are not concepts beyond our realm or capacity as human beings. And so I really want to make it understandable. I really want to empower as I teach, inshallah, and make it so you don't necessarily you can do so much without a needle, actually. That you might not even need that. There are not over, there are 9 specific needles in acupuncture, and I used quotes there because there are some that do not penetrate the skin that are very accessible. I wish I had one on me, but the gua sha tool, I taught a course in person about 2 years ago, and that was very successful by His grace and permission. And being able to teach a small group of people how to administer acupressure and gua sha techniques for when they have a cough, cold, a flu, when they have sore muscles, when they have fever. So there are several different things that we can do, even when you're young. Qigong and Tai Chi and just movement exercises, things that you're eating. So, yes, The short answer is I am working on a course. I don't know when I will be sending out an email list to sign up for that though. And I really hope my my hope would be to see this as part of either National Training Conference or MUI curriculum, to understand more about the mind, body, and spirit and how they work in tandem to create our actual health and well-being.
Right. So tell me, thank you for that. So tell me, where would you say is the epicenter or the mecca, if you will, of traditional Chinese medicine? Obviously, I think you might say China, but what city, where is the actual epicenter that would be like for you, the Holy Grail, a place where you would go and visit and sit with those who are extremely, beyond, proficient in this type of medicine?
That's an amazing question. Thank you for that. Well, I I have some connections to Dr. Matulu Shakur, who was a renowned doctor of acupuncture in the Bronx, New York in the 70s, who he, with the Young Lords and the Black Panthers, overtook the Lincoln Memorial Hospital and made a detox center for our people and taught them auricular or ear acupuncture and helped to heal our people as they were coming off of substance overuse and abuse. That is the mecca for me. That is the mecca here in the United States, I would say, for Black acupuncture. And the history of that. There's a wonderful documentary that is accessible to everyone on YouTube. That documentary is called Dope is Death, and it features him and his practices and is very, very inspiring. In terms of where I think the Caucasian Western mentality in the United States, where that mecca is, they would say probably California. That's where like the higher standards of acupuncture come into play from here. But for me personally, as an original woman, I would say New York.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Sister Sylvina, I'll put you on ice for a while. You're on mute.
Thank you for what you shared so far, Dr. Joy. Um, I've had acupuncture before. I have experienced it before. I'm not sure whether it worked or whether it's psychosomatic, but it was very relaxing. I'll say that. Very relaxing.
You got a good night's sleep, did you?
I always do, but it was I would say it was better, yeah. Okay. So I was asking you, when I went, they had a range of Chinese herbs.
Mm.
Are they part of the acupuncture process, or is that just an add-on, product? Because I had some of those and they're extremely strong. Like, in the Caribbean, we'd have bitters. That's definitely a rival for bitters.
Yes, ma'am. That is actually one of the Chinese herbal medicine is one of the five pillars of traditional Chinese medicine as a whole. It's also, this is like a somatic of sorts, but when we say acupuncture, the rough translation, actually, the ancient translation was acupuncture and moxibustion. And moxibustion is actually a way to administer a specific Chinese herbs called moxa. It's also known as Ai. That's AI. Second word is Ye, Ai, which is Chinese mugwort. So when you burn that, that is one of the main methods of using and treating that specific Chinese herb. But the five pillars are acupuncture, which would include a needle, herbal medicine, as you mentioned, moxibustion, which is what I just mentioned, tuina, which is a Chinese form of massage, and then dietary therapy. So that is just one. Chinese medicine is just, or Chinese herbs are just one of the five pillars used to diagnose and treat imbalances.
Right, okay, thank you. So it's not a necessity that you have it alongside acupuncture, but it's for the holistic approach, you would recommend it.
I prefer it. I prefer going to Chinese medical practitioners that have a knowledge of herbs. Not everybody, again, the curriculum, especially here in the West, is really changing, which is so disheartening. There's a lot of schools now that have closed and shut down. And they say lack of funding, but I think it's lack of interest really, because you took out herbs, you took out the herbal medicine of it. Now you're integrating all these other things to bolster your Western medical ideas and whatnot. But in the 70s, when acupuncture really became pronounced in the West here in America, there was a large integration of, Chinese herbs. Even if you went to China now, I'm not sure about in the UK. I haven't been actually. I've been to other places in Europe, but we have here, especially in the South, like strip malls, where you have you go into this large parking lot and it's just a long kind of U-shaped building, and there's different shops within that building. So that's what we call a strip mall here. And you might have a Chinese practitioner in one of those, and it doesn't look very fancy or anything like that. And they might just do what we call two diagnostics, tongue and pulse. So they might look at your tongue, they might feel the pulses, and then they might have a wall of herbs, and they throw some raw herbs in a bag and tell you how to take it and make the tea, and there you're off to go. And that is Chinese medicine, and that is largely how they
Is that
use
why
it.
we run from it a bit?
Maybe because we don't know. We're ignorant to the powerful properties of it, which is, I think, sometimes I think I like to think of myself as a bridge. Holistic medicine is more of a bridge, because Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we won't have doctors in the future, we'll have healers. So I think I play, by his grace and permission, some sort of dualistic role, because sure, I could use the title doctor, but I don't always. And the things that happen within a treatment are really a co-healing in a sense. I'm learning, they're learning, and we're building this kind of healing energy together. Um, and so I think that is a role and a position as more of a bridge to helping people really get into how to eat to live, which is the basis, the foundation of health and well-being. And it is just the book to follow, books, plural. So, when I'm teaching, even patients that come in, I often, very often, speak about how to eat to live. And within dietary therapy as one of the 5 pillars of traditional Chinese medicine. Now, for this course, say, I'm going back, and yes, Chinese medicine has their own kind of curriculum for dietary therapy. We look at, for herbs and diet, taste, flavor, nature, and temperature of an herb or a food. And so I'm trying to kind of do that and pinpoint that with how to eat to live, and only how to eat to live, because there's a lot in Chinese medicine prescriptives that is not how to eat to live per se. And if you don't abide by that, if you're not in Islam, we can speak in other ways about that. But for the believers, I really think that it would be very great for you to understand what the taste, the flavor, nature, and temperature is of, like, squab. I've never had that. I'll never eat that. Probably I'm vegetarian, but like, what is in that medicinally for you if you cook that?
Some squab.
Squab. That's in the book. I've never even heard of it until I read that book.
Oh God. So look, I wanted to ask you this, like, in How to Eat to Live, it also mentions, and we're taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that it takes a person on average like 70 years to learn how to live. So all doctors then below 70 are still learning themselves how to live, right? So do you think in the future, when we have these healers, that they will all be 70 plus?
Good question.
They would have stood the test of time and manifested and showcased optimum health 70 plus. Do you think that's going to be a prerequisite?
You know, where my mind went when you said that was if we are practicing, let's say, and this might be for me, I've not had children yet. And so I am
Don't say
nearing, well, I'm about halfway there. How about that? I'm about halfway there. So, but when I think about this, or when I think about women who have not given birth yet, and they're in the nation, and they're, striving to abide by how to eat to live and our restrictive laws, and I think about again how we're talking about Tiangui, we're talking about the bow or the uterus, and how we are not only feeding this uterus, but also feeding the secondary. And how are we doing that? We're learning about how to eat to live. We're learning about Chinese medicine. We're not only learning, but we're applying, right? That's called praxis, right? The application of the knowledge. And so when women do that, I can't even say if, I'm saying when women do that, there's some babies now that have been born that, they come out of the womb and they're sitting straight up and their necks are erect already and their eyes are wide open. And I can see that for future generations. They might not have to be 70 years old. They might come right away because their mother had, taken in the lectures of how to give birth to a god and really applied that knowledge and have literally given births to these healers, ready made, ready to go. That's part of what I believe could be the hereafter.
I think I was born with my head like what you just mentioned. I, I think I was ready to go, Dr. J. Sorry. I think, is there anybody in the audience who was born ready to go? And
born free, born free.
Because sometimes when we were young babies, it was as if the environment in which we were born was actually holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was molding us in some way, shape, or form, or shaping us. But as babies, whenever you come up in a very restrictive environment, then you're being held back from having the freedom to explore and to experiment and learn from your experimentation, because you've already proven that you have intelligence, lest you would have never, as sperm, made it all the way up into the fallopian tubes to germinate an egg. So you're already showing supreme intelligence. So if we showed supreme intelligence in our formative years, or not even years, formative days and months, then certainly when we are born, we're being birthed onto really an ignorant planet with ignorant people after we have engaged in miraculous activity in the uterus of our mothers, right? And within her constitution, her body, right? So would you then say, the vast majority of us have actually been held back, and this is why we seek freedom? Because I'm getting into a whole different thing now. Since the Dr. Joe is like saying, where is he going with this? But where I'm going with this, Dr. Joy, is back to the original question in regards to environment. Because if the environment is such a major contributor to our current lack of optimum health, then we do have to take over the environment and make it better, don't we?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And we're taught, we're all at this point, I believe, 100% dissatisfied with our environment, with the powers that be, with the condition of us and us as a people, a collective people. So that also means now that we are ready to step into that change, and we're ready to create that change, and we're ready to perpetuate that change. But I think even when we sit with knowledge, you're saying that there's a lack of optimum health within the environment. So with that knowledge that we have, we could just be sitting on it for years. You could be in the nation for 30 years and you do know how to eat to live, but don't do it all the time. Now is the time to lock in. Now is the time to lock in. I was just having a conversation about that with another believer actually recently about stress. We were talking
Mm.
about stress here. And, I was really reminded actually from Sister Minister Dr. Ava Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with her. She had a lecture on the light and power of God in you. So I want to quote her because this was what I had passed on to the believer. She says, "The past is gone. We can't live there. The future, we can't live there because it hasn't come yet. And when it does, it won't even resemble the present. There are prophecies and predictions, but now we are in the fullness of time. The only reality is the moment. Only right now are we alive. Right now, right this second, you have access to the light. The light is in you now. So, what you want, go for it. Don't wait until tomorrow or next year. Don't say, well, the tools I need to become what I want are not in my environment. She says, work with what is present. That's what Allah did. He was in the triple darkness of space with nothing. So that was just very inspiring to me. And I pray, inshallah, that was to the believer I was speaking with as well,
Well,
and
it
to
it
us.
it woke us up, so I'm
Praise
sure
to Allah.
it had a positive impact. Tell us, just as we're winding down, what's the number one complaint that women and men are bringing to you at this time?
Pain. Pain.
Pain.
Pain physically. And then when you take a deeper dive, it's pain usually psychosomatically, or there was an emotional component to it. Stress, number one, shoulders are up to the ears. I'm guilty of that sometimes. Um, upset stomach, knee pain, again, all the things that we were stating at the beginning of the lecture. Pain is usually the thing that gets people to even want to crack open the door of, does this work? I've heard about this. Or uh they want to conflate it with dry needling. Not the same thing at all. We have this thing here in the United States called dry needling, which is absolutely not the same thing. um and they say, well, that didn't work, but I've heard about acupuncture. It's like, it's because they're very different. And yes, pain would be the number one reason why people come to see me first. And then it turns into more of an internal medicine for them because now that their pain has been the gateway, which is, it's sort of wax poetic, like there are so many great things actually that usually stem from or come from our pain creatively. So pain might bring them into the clinic, and then they have a better understanding because I really try to take my time and educate while I'm doing. Um, and then they say, "Oh, my pain is gone. My pain is better. Can you work on this?" And it might be sinuses or something like that. Yes, we can work on that too. So yes, pain.
Fantastic. So, do you see more women than men, or is there an even balance?
That's a great question. I think it's a even balance at this point, which is amazing. All praises due to Allah. I love when sisters and brothers come in and see the wonderful nature of Chinese medicine and what it can do for our health as a whole.
Fantastic. Sister Sylvina?
Yes, you mentioned, Dr. Joy, you mentioned blood stasis
Mhm.
and women being prone to that because of the position of their womb. So that is blood stasis, if correct me if I'm wrong, is the slowing of the blood.
Yes,
That what
it's an
the swelling and things like that.
yes, ma'am. It's a condition where the blood flow is impeded.
Right.
So that often causes pain, inflammation, lots of other symptoms. And then you have to really unpack, well, what is causing the stasis? There's a difference between stagnation, which is more of a chi energetic. Why is this not moving? We say where where that is stagnant, then pain will accumulate. But then there is another like level or tier called stasis, where it has completely stopped.
Can I just
And
ask before you go on, what are the symptoms of that of of the blood
of
stain?
of stasis.
Yeah.
So I'll try to break this down because there are several different causes which will help you, inshallah, to understand what the symptoms might look like. So let's say you have blood stasis from a qi deficiency. You might have such weak qi, like vital energy energetically, that you can't even circulate blood. So you might end up, worst case scenario, you might have deep vein thrombosis, DVT, that might turn into an embolism, and let loose and then become a pulmonary embolism. That is blood stasis, right? Or you might have chi stagnation that then in turn causes blood stasis. So you might have something like fibroids or clotting with your menses each month. Um, does that help to
Right.
understand?
Yeah.
Praise be to Allah.
All right. Thank you. One more question. One more. It was to do with, you mentioned very early on, you mentioned the skin being the largest immune organ. What did you actually mean by that? And how do you take care of the skin from your, within your practice?
Yes, ma'am. The lungs and the skin, they're intimately connected. So the lungs, actually, the physiology, the function of the lungs are actually considered responsible for regulating the pores. We have
Okay.
millions of pores all over our body. And so the lungs' role in skin health, it's responsible for opening and closing those pores. So let's say if you are living in a cold environment or a windy environment, let's say you're in Chicago and it's bitter cold, windy. We've all been there, Savior's Day, amazing time. It's terribly cold. But if you're not covering the nape of your neck, we call these points in the back of the neck wind gate. If you're not covering them, those pores have a tendency, okay, you've been in the car, you have the heat on blast, and you're hot. The pores have what we call in this medicine slacked open. Then you walk outside into the bitter freezing cold, it's windy, and zoop, now you have a head cold because the point of entry for that pathology, that wind pathogen, we call it, or EPF, external pathogenic factor, has lodged into the nape of the neck. And now your pores have all of a sudden, they've gone from expansion to contraction so quickly. Now you're sick. And so there are a difference even in cold damage, versus another type of cold. So there are two different even ways in which, okay, do I need to really pop open the pores and vent heat from this person and help them to sweat? That's one sort of formula and acupuncture protocol, for better lack of a better term, versus this person has been completely deficient and they need another type of herbal remedy in order to rebalance and govern the skin. The wei qi is what we call immunity in Chinese medicine through the lungs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
So, Dr. Joy, how would you summarize what you do and what advice would you give all of those of us who are on this call in regards to the majesty of Chinese medicine and what you represent? What would be your summary as advice to all of us on the line?
It's a good question. Well, my role is to help you maintain or come back to balance. And so I think the more you end up doing deeper dives, there's a lot of great books. If you look on my website, there's a resource tab, and there's quite a few books made mention that you can look into. One, I think in particular, is by Olivia Cohen. It's like Health and Long Life, something like this. And that really helps you to understand how your body works in a different kind of paradigm. And so the more you understand yourself, um, either physically or mentally or spiritually, I think the better chances you have of, oh, this is off. And again, not being stuck in, I'm so off, I'm so out of balance, but oh, there's solutions to this. There's hope in this. And so I think that when I call myself a chi mechanic for your vital energy, I really am like a mechanic, like for your car. So you might come in and I assess you. Okay, this spark plug is out. This needs a little tune up here and there. But then empowering you to be your best self and to do your own research and to figure out what your outstanding patterns of health and wholeness are. I think that that is something that people could really take away is really, again, in this time, I think it's the best time to get to know self, get to know how self works as an autonomous being, and implement these kinds of tools, whether it's drinking some chrysanthemum tea for your liver health and eye health, or taking up a new exercise like Qigong or Tai Chi, especially because we have the National Training Conference coming up. Start limbering up for that. But
So,
also,
so please continue.
I would just say remain curious and really take a good part, take fun, take enjoyment in really learning about your health.
Fantastic. So, Dr. Joy, could you please drop your website details into the chat and advise us accordingly for those of us who are outside of the US and are unable to come to where you are directly. Is there an opportunity for us to have appointments and consultations with you via Zoom or some other electronic means?
Yes, you can. Here's my website. Oops, not .com, excuse me, .org. Through my website, there is a email sign up list as well as a 30-minute free consultation. You can either do that through Zoom or through phone call. I really enjoy, especially like if you're in the UK or in a different state. That's not it either, excuse me. Connecting people to providers that are within their region. Sorry, I'm on my iPad, so.
No problem, please.
There you are. Not this one.
Fantastic.
Wait. But I can, within that 30-minute free consultation, it's nice, I think, for people to learn a little bit more about Chinese medicine, a little bit more about me. I've had some people, give phone call and, talk to me a little bit about what do you think this is or whatnot. And then, yeah, connecting them to the resources that are nearest them. And if you're in Greensboro, if you come to visit, by all means, you can set up an appointment.
So if we phone you or have a consultation here in the UK and we need, say, some acupuncture, etc., you will advise us where the best place is to go that is more local to us in different parts. Yeah, fantastic. Yes. Fantastic. So with that said, well, all we can do is thank you and show our appreciation for the wonderful information that you have shared. And those of you in the listening audience, if you've enjoyed this evening as much as I have done at this time, show it. Take your devices off mute and give.
Thank you, Dr.
Joy.
Thank you.
God bless you.
For that valuable information.
Thank you,
Really
Thank you for the information.
beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so
you, Sister
much.
Joy.
That's great.
Thank you, Dr. Joy.
All praises due to Allah.
Thanks.
Fantastic. So, Sister Sylvina, what do we have coming up? Are there any announcements that we need to share with our audience?
I have been told we have one more week on female health. it would be interesting to know. I know you mentioned, Brother, at the start, what about men's health? So it'd be interesting to know what demand there is, for us to cover, men's health issues that specifically pertain to men. And that's something that we can consider moving forward.
That's all on our website, Sylvina. We've gone down that road.
That's so true.
So we're going to need everybody to go to our app and enjoy the back catalog, because we have exhausted that subject to some degree. However, we will revisit aspects of it as technology is constantly moving and information is constantly being unearthed. That is for sure. We will definitely do that.
And for those of you who mentioning that, thank you for that. Those of you who have not yet downloaded our app, we are in the process of revamping it. It was excellent before. We're actually in the process of revamping the app. So do look forward to the relaunch of that. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, share, help us to build the platform. And we look forward to seeing you next week with a guest.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was the old Rolls Royce app. So now we're upgrading the app to the Spectre Rolls to the latest version, and you'll love it once it's been rededicated. So with that said, all that's left for me to do is thank each and every one of you for your time, for coming on. Brother Terence, I see you, my brother. I see you. So thank you for gracing us with your beautiful presence. Let my brother come off of mute so he can give love and greetings to all concerned. If we can allow him, there you go. Brother Terry.
Man, assalamu alaikum. How is everyone?
Walaikum salam.
Good to see you. So let me just first say thanks for this opportunity. And I just had to be a witness bearer. We were talking about this last night at the mosque. I got to be a witness bearer that with our sister, Dr. Joyce, two things specifically. She's very thorough at what she does. And because I study martial arts, so she also studies the flow of energy. And she really incorporates the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan, as far as our diet. So, she's always on me, well, you need some herbs, or what do you, if I'm not eating right, or you eating here, you eating there. You need to not eat there. You need to. So she's very, very on point of giving you balance, but she also institutes, giving you something wrong with you. She is like a mechanic. Like, how a mechanic can know that your car, they can hear the sound. Yeah. She knows when something is off. You need some of this. You need some of that. You're using the wrong kind of gas. You got the wrong kind of oil in your car. This is what you need. She really, really does that. And I also just want to go back to some of the questions that you was asking. The whole issue about our Chinese friend. And I laugh about that because I think about the work of Mother Tanetta. Mother Tanetta did so much work in the whole thing about Genghis Khan and just traveling the world and bringing us and exposing us to other things that the minister says, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad talk about this as a universal teaching, and connecting us with the universal knowledge that is out there. So she has that work in the line of Mother Tanetta. So it's, sometimes we like, well, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. We're not, and she's not bringing anything that's outside of the scope of these teachings, and that's why you heard How to Eat to Live. So I am one of her patients. I have been one of her patients, and this is something that is definitely good. Definitely not just in the martial art. It is something in balance. But I think the greatest thing is because you are a student minister and a teacher, is that when we teach to give the medicine to help us get balance back to our natural self, accept your own and be yourself. And that's this right. Is one of those tools that she's blessed to have a skill in, to do that for us. And I'm just blessed. So it's good to see you on live, and it's good to see you in Chicago. And it's good to see that y'all got 100 people on Zoom on this audience. That's a beautiful thing that people are really interested, and that y'all giving some good messages for the people to enjoy. And I see all the comments, so I'm glad that you all enjoyed. And I think to see the brothers and sisters on the other side. Shout out to Brother Jeffrey, but yeah, I'm just excited.
Thank you, Brother
Oh,
Terry.
and she does represent Moss number 92. So
All
y'all
right
know.
now.
This one's for Terrence. All praise is due to Allah.
All right now. So
Praise be to Allah.
so with that said, you have really, really lifted the spirit, because we're at, what time is it here now? We're 8:30 in the evening.
Right.
So seeing
Okay.
your beautiful faces and hearing your beautiful voices have really
Yes, sir.
lifted everybody on the platform. So we thank you, Brother Terrence, and we thank you, Dr. Joy, for imparting that beautiful information and letting us know that we have friendship in all walks of life, and the best information in every country on any continent belongs to us. So thank you for bringing this back to us so that we may enjoy it and improve our condition. Thank you, Spiritual Injection audience, for being such a wonderful audience. And thanks to our production team who puts these wonderful shows together every week, Sister Tara and all of her team. Thank you, thank you, thank you to my co-host, Sister Silvina, and to all of our distributors and marketers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you same place, same time next week, Thursday. Thank you and good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you enjoy our content? Well, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you won't miss an episode.